Before everything, I want to thank God for giving me the opportunity to be here today and for giving me the joy of being able to travel this path that had allowed me to be here today and hopefully inspire everyone to believe in yourself. Thank you, dear God, for giving me the opportunity and all this year to stay strong and keep my feet on the ground through ups and downs and all the sacrifices that I had to overcome to be able to be here with you today. Just like you guys know, I'm real. And I'm going to talk to you guys in English and Spanish. Pa' que mi gente me entienda.
So that was David Ortiz's Hall of Fame speech as the MLB Hall of Fame took place over the weekend. Not really much of a view, honestly. I mean, I was just, it's too bad I didn't get to go there over the weekend to see David Ortiz get inducted to the Hall of Fame. Here's the way I would have done it. I would have just arrived for Big Papi's arrival, and I would have just left. Like, that would have been the plan for the entire day. I mean, that to me is all I needed to have right there. But I could not, unfortunately, make it over the weekend to Cooperstown. Really wasn't even planning on watching on TV. It's actually better if you go to the Hall of Fame and actually watch this stuff. It really is a lot better. But this has let us interrupt you, episode 64. This is basically titled MLB Hall of Fame Review. Ortiz is now Cooperstown. And it's official. The man who had 541 home runs, the man who's won 3 World Series titles, ALCS MVPs, World Series MVP. I mean, I didn't believe he won a World Series MVP in 2004. I want to say that I don't know if he won it in 2007. I may be wrong on that one, but he's got multiple ALCS MVPs. And I got to be honest right now. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's no question about it. This guy deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. Even Derek Jeter, and I just found this out on Netson that he actually wished him congratulations. So after a decade of being rivals, now they're actually, kosher now. They're friends. So that's some interesting news there. Other than that, the Hall of Fame itself right now, nothing really spectacular. Ortiz's speech honestly was 30 minutes long, and I found out that that he edited through a pickup truck. I guess it was a parade. I guess he was on a pickup truck. I just thought that was a little bit strange. But anyway, whatever. That's that right there with that. Other baseball news besides this right now, well, the Red Sox continue to depress me. I mean, they got swept over the weekend against the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm not going to get into any more detail than that. They ended their 5-game skid last night with a 3-1 win. Right now, they're down 1-0 right now. It's Winskowski, I believe, who's pitching right now for the Red Sox right now, as they're down 1-0. They're still in the first inning. They were outscored in the span of 4 games, I believe. I believe it was now, 60-14. I think the runs were at this point, or 60-10, whatever ridiculous number was. Let's put it this way. I mean, if you're being outscored by 50 runs at this point, you're a pathetic team. You are an absolutely pathetic team. And what's sad is that right now this is the continuation right now of the Red Sox not going to deal with Bogarts. They're not going to deal with Devers. They're going to be a mediocre team every year that might make the playoffs, that might not make the playoffs. And it's all because you got John Henry, who does not care about this Red Sox organization. And you got Chaim Bloom, who's just turning into this team into the Tampa Bay Rays. Not a successful Tampa Bay Rays team like we got now at this point. That really honestly could have gone further than anybody else could have ever imagined. But, and that's really them over the last, couple of seasons. But into a Rays team that may as well be a once-in-a-lifetime shot, maybe in the dark right now. Really, it just feels like Devil Ray kind of type of ordeal right now, when they were actually pathetic to watch, and how they finish in last place almost every year, just like the Orioles do. I mean, let's be honest right now. If the Rays never were the Rays and they just kept calling themselves the Devil Rays, that team would have been a dumpster fire, and they would have been forced to move out of Tampa Bay. That's the truth. And right now, I have a funny feeling right now the Red Sox are going to turn right exactly into that right now, into the Devil Rays at this point. Not the actual Tampa Bay Rays at this point, that it was actually somewhat successful and actually got to a deep playoff run and went from worst to first, because that's not happening. I mean, if they're not even going to even entertain the idea of keeping really your face to franchise and Xander Bogaerts. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. I don't know why I forgot that player's name. I've been saying now that for a while that they should keep him at this point, but I have a feeling they're going to trade him. They're not going to trade him though, according to some reports. Nothing about keeping him or keeping Rafael Devers. To me, it's just sad. I mean, you think of a franchise now at this point that is completely has just fallen off the map right now in Boston sports and popularity. And I think that's probably why John Henry has checked out at this point, because he just has to give up on the fan bases of baseball at this point. And that's why he's got multiple other interests besides baseball. I mean, look at the factors going into it. When Theo Epstein left in 2013, or not 2013, sorry, 2012, so did John Henry's interest of the game. I mean, this guy started making multiple purchases, multiple moves. And really, it's just a matter of like, what would have been like if the Red Sox at this point had John Henry had, full throttle, fully invested into this baseball team? He would never stand for this. This is a totally different John Henry. And I've been saying, and I think everyone in the Boston world area has said it. Rhode Island area has said it. Southern New England, like Connecticut, like there's some Red Sox fans in Connecticut, but I mean, you get my point. I mean, it's mostly Yankee fans too, but they're seeing it too. They're not seeing a fully invested general manager or a CEO right now. Chaim Bloom at this point doesn't care about players, and if he really did, he would actually give a damn about how this team was actually going to play out. But it's gotten to that luxury. It's gotten to that point now. I'm not sure what's going to end up happening now at this point anyway with this Red Sox team. With Chaim Bloom here, but this is his third year now at this point as general manager, and it's been a complete waste. It's been a complete waste at this point. And to not keep those guys around, to me, is what's, I think at the end of the day, is just borderline stupid. I mean, you talk about a reality factor of this team right now at this point. And I think a lot of people could agree on this whole thing right now when it comes to the Red Sox. Sorry, I'm not trying to show my chest here. I just noticed that my chest here was showing in the video. I was just trying to cover it up so no one would be like, in case no one likes chest here, it's just there in the way. Anyway, as I was just trying to, I know people are going to ask me like, why are you playing around with your shirts so much? Because I was like, it is a little distracting a little bit that I just didn't like seeing my chest here in the camera. Just putting it out there. In case anyone gets grossed out, I have it covered up. And let's try to see how long this can cover up for. Anyway, but again, with Chaim Bloom at this point, third year as a general manager on this Red Sox team. And it's kind of embarrassing at this point that this team has, played the way they played, especially on Friday night. And I know I'm going back here 28-5. You already heard about my rant. If you didn't, go ahead and watch it. It was worth watching. Let's put it that way. 40 minutes of me ranting about the Red Sox. And I got to be honest right now about this point. I have officially given up on this Red Sox team. I don't care if they won last night. Fantastic. You should have won last night. You should have beaten this Cleveland Guardian team. You already swept this team once. And you did it in their place. So it's not like you did anything special. But I just watched this Red Sox team right now over the weekend, and it's just like, they got swept by the Blue Jays. They're going to play the Guardians tonight. The Guardians are no better. In fact, they're an average team at best. So it's not like they're there, they're on a quest right now for anything, because they got to get by Chicago, and they got to get by, although Chicago might be pretty easier to get by because they are in second place, Cleveland. But, I mean, they got to get by the Twins, and I just don't think they have what it takes to get by the Twins at this point. I just don't think they do. The Red Sox can't get by anybody. Let's be honest. When you're 12-29 against the American League East this season, that's not a good thing. That's a bad thing. So, I mean, I kind of actually have a legit feeling right now that this Red Sox team is going to end up finishing in last place. And if somehow Chaim Bloom, Alex Cora, and John Henry are still around at the 2022, 2023, they're never going to go anywhere. And I think John Henry just doesn't want to spend over the luxury tax at this point or be in the luxury tax, which they already are in right now. They already spent $260 million on this baseball team. I understand that. Okay, I get the idea of that. I do. But more effort into it. You know what I mean? Like, don't waste your money on talent right now that is not willing to live up to the end of their bargain. You know, that is not putting their heart and soul into the games. There are players out there that, yes, believe it or not, when they sign these 13-year, 14-year deals, they get what you pay for, right? You get what you pay for when it comes to that idea, right? That's the reality. And look, again, it's disappointing, really. It really is. But like for John Henry to not be fully invested in this baseball team at this point, I'd say sell your team. Sell your team at this point. Ben Cherington sucked the life out of John Henry at this point as a general manager. And getting Chaim Bloom in here was no better. You probably would have been better off just keeping around Dave Dombrowski. Which I thought to myself, why did they fire him in the first place? I'm just curious. What was the necessity of firing Dave Dombrowski? Unless something happened. Because the only thing I could come up with right now is he must have said something about John Henry, didn't like the fact right now that he was taking the ideas. Maybe he thought he was trying to take the team. In all seriousness, if Dave Dombrowski was the CEO of the Boston Red Sox right now, I'd be okay with that. In all seriousness, he made the right move by firing Joe Girardi from the Philadelphia Phillies. I don't see how he would right now wouldn't fire Alex Cora or fire his general manager, Chaim Bloom, but keep Cora around. You can go either or with this one. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was a power move. I don't know. I mean, the fact that you were forced out 1 year after winning the World Series to me just seems a little strange. That's all. That's all I'm saying. You know, and I'm looking at this with my eyes wide open here on what's going to end up happening with this Red Sox team if they end up keeping Chaim Bloom around, if they end up keeping up Alex Cora, if they end up keeping John Henry in the CEO chair. It's not going to end well. People are saying that they might be a playoff team every year. Their farm system might be, you know, average at best. If this is their farm system with Jared Duran, Jeter Downs, who I think are not ready to be on this team and got called up way too soon, then you may as well forget it because they peaked already. As painful it is for me to even say this about this Red Sox team is that they peaked. This was the season right here. Their season ended Friday night against the Blue Jays. It may have been on life support after that win last night against the Cleveland Guardians, but their season's dead. Let's be real here for a minute. Their season might as well be resting in peace at this moment. It's done. There's no other way of looking at it. It's absolutely done. Right now, so far as baseball games on that are on, there were some games that were on last night. I'm not gonna get to the scoreboard and do every game here, but I will get through the scoreboard that's currently happening right now. Cubs beat the Pirates today 4-2. Marlins and Reds right now are scoreless. Braves and Phillies are on right now 1-0 Atlanta. Tampa Bay losing to the Baltimore Orioles actually 1-0. Blue Jays are beating the Cardinals 2-1. Yankees and Mets are playing right now in the Subway Series. By the way, no Giancarlo Stanton out for 2 weeks for, or maybe a little bit longer, 2 to 3 weeks for Achilles tendonitis. That was according to CBS Sports. But they're up right now 2-1 over the Mets. Padres and Tigers are on right now. They're scoreless. The Tigers actually beat the Padres yesterday 12-4. Royals shut out the Angels yesterday 7-0. I believe the Brewers lost yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, or the Brewers won yesterday. I don't remember. But that game's on tonight as well. That's game 2 of that series. White Sox Rockies are on tonight. Astros Athletics are on tonight. Astros lost last night. Mariners won last night. The Dodgers lost last night to the Nationals. That's on tonight as well. That's game 2 of that series. All the Monday games that were on last night, though, I will say this, though, about these games that were kind of surprising here. The Orioles winning last night was one thing. The Reds winning last night was one thing. How about the Giants being shut out by the Diamondbacks and the Angels being shut out by the Royals here by the same score, 7-0? Think about that for a minute. Does that happen very oftenly? I mean, I know it's not anything special, but it's like you got really 2 worst-case scenario teams that are basically done and out of the playoffs at this point, being shot by the exact same score. The Giants right now are somewhat in better shape. The Angels not so much. Shohei Ohtani might not even get traded, despite the fact right now that people are calling and begging him to get traded to their teams. I mean, they might as well be begging at this point. And who wouldn't want Shohei Ohtani? I want him here, but that's never going to happen. So that's a long shot. Anyway, that was the MLB Hall of Fame / my Red Sox depressing me segment. That's going to be in the description, by the way. It's the Red Sox depressing me. Julio Jones, former wide receiver for the Atlanta Falcons, now former wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans, because now he has signed a 1-year deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So now you have Godwin, Mike Evans, and Julio Jones for the 2022-2023 NFL season. Here's my opinion. My mind hasn't been changed about this whole thing at all. In fact, if you ask me, I think it's kind of stupid that they have this signing right now because Julio Jones is injury prone at this point. He's kind of washed up. He's kind of past his prime, not really past his prime, but kind of past his prime. To get in a 1-year deal to me, like I don't think you really needed him per se. You got Kyle Rudolph already as a tight end to replace Gronk. You have Cameron Brate. You have Cyril Grayson. I don't think it's necessary. I really don't think it is. I don't think having Julio Jones on this team is going to make a difference. Hell, I don't think you're. I think right now it might have just been a win less right now in my predictions because right now at this point, it looks like now at this point that Tampa Bay right now is going to win the division. There's no question about it. The question is now is because adding Julio Jones, does that kind of slow things down a little bit, with another distraction? Because you had the Antonio Brown distraction last season. You just had that distraction. Man, this is a really crappy shirt. And this is my TB12 shirt, too. It's like, I know the TB12 shirt on here. Best quarterback ever shirt. You know what? Forget it. I'm just going to show the chest here. The hell with it. Anyway, but yeah, another distraction like that to me is what I think the Bucs don't really need. I think Julio Jones right now, and you talk about the guy being mostly injured last year with the Tennessee Titans and, basically being injured prone with the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, I don't think he's injured prone per se. I don't think it's that, but I think as he got older, he starts to hurt more. He starts to feel weaker. And to me, I think that to me is what the Buccaneers just don't really need. They don't need an injury right now to hurt this team. And he's one injury away from early retirement, in my opinion. That's what I think he is. He's still amongst one of the great wide receivers right now in the NFL over the last 10 years. There's no denying that. And I'm saying the last 10 years. I'm not saying the last 2 years. I'm saying the last 10 years. But I just feel like right now at this point, with how this has gone out, I mean, the Falcons to me, moved on with Calvin Ridley. At this point, look how that turned out. Now the Buccaneers now are basically now trying to get Julio Jones on here to make Tom Brady stick around for another 5 years. This is all desperate attempt because they know at this point when Tom Brady goes, they're screwed. They're screwed. 45-year-old Tom Brady, they want this guy to play till he's 50. Because they know at this point they have no shot at this point of getting another quarterback in the next 5 or 10 years. It's just never going to happen. Or within the next year or two. I just, unless Garoppolo somehow ends up being a free agent, sits out for a year as a free agent at this point and gets signed by Tampa Bay, I just can't see Garoppolo sitting out for a year as a free agent. I just can't imagine that happening at this point. I'm calling like I see it. I just can't say for 1 minute right now when Brady retires, this ends up. And really, let's be honest right now. When Brady retires, Julio Jones is not going to stay in Tampa Bay. Mike Evans is not going to stay in Tampa Bay. Chris Godwin is not going to stay in Tampa Bay. Todd Bowles is not going to have a job at the Tampa Bay. You can forget that. That's not going to happen. He's not going to keep his head coaching job in Tampa Bay once Brady leaves. That's it. Unless Sean Payton comes out of retirement now, takes Todd Bowles' job, Bowles gets fired, then you cause distinction throughout the entire team, making another distraction. Or within the next year or so, Sean Payton decides, hey, you know what, Brady? I'm coaching next year. I'll co-coach with Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then they're all staying. But I just can't imagine that Chris Godwin will be happy in Tampa Bay once Brady retires. I don't think his play will get any better. I don't think it's going to happen. So one way or the other, I just can't imagine his play getting better at this point once Brady leaves. I just can't imagine it happening. Sorry. I mean, just being blatantly obvious. He's the only quarterback he's played with so far. I don't believe he's played with Winston, I believe. So anyway. There was some retiring news today. Seahawks running back Chris Carson now announced his retirement today. This was according to Bleacher Report. That article came out today. Retiring due to a neck injury and has been released right now, and so he can collect millions in benefits. This was according to Ian Rappaport on his Twitter. All I gotta say is right now is Chris Carson's career will be summed up as, meh. Maybe somewhat below average of Marion Barber, maybe. Not as remembered as a key piece of that Seahawks franchise. As a matter of fact, I think he came after the Seahawks Legion of Boom dynasty died. Let's be honest. He came right after that. So to me, it's one of those sad news right now. You don't want to see it. You don't want to see a guy who doesn't go out in his own terms. But that's what's happening. That's what's happening at this point with the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, you hate to see it. You really do hate to see it. Also, some news today right now. Darius Leonard, going by Shaquille Leonard now. His middle name is Shaquille, by the way, but apparently he wanted me to refer now to it as Shaquille Leonard. I don't know what the story about this really is and why this is even a bigger story. I have not read the article on this, so bear with me. This is according to Bleacher Report as of today. This is according to Joseph Zucker. This is via his Twitter right now at this point on Bleacher Report. And this is also according to Laura Overton, who got more of the story. I only called Darius when I was in school or when I was in trouble. This was what he was saying to I guess Laura, apparently. Growing up, family called him by his middle name, Shaquille. Coming in as a rookie, he heeded advice of Randy Moss, keep your mouth closed, keep your eyes and ears open. So he was hesitant to correct anyone earlier. So basically, he was letting people call him Darius for the first 4 years of his career. And this is a guy that really wants to go through with it. I don't see why not. And give me 1 second, because I'm going to put the light on in here because it is going to be a little bit darker. That's somewhat better. Okay. That's somewhat better. But yeah, I read this story like this, and the first thing that pops in my head is, with Darius Leonard at this point, just allowing this to happen, for Randy Moss to give him that kind of advice. Here's my opinion on this whole thing. Why would Randy Moss make him hide his true self? I mean, I just don't get that logic. Why would Randy Moss even want that to happen? I just don't get that logic to me. That to me is kind of strange. I don't know. To me, I just look at that and I go, why would you want this guy to keep his identity quiet? Let him be open. If he wants to be called Shaquille, let him be called Shaquille. I can actually say congrats on that one. I'd say good for you. You want to change your name to Shaquille? Change your name to Shaquille. Why hide your true identity? I just don't get that logic. It's kind of weird. But you know what? To come out now 4 years later, and really, honestly, if it was bothering him that much to begin with, I would have just said, screw your advice. I know you're a Hall of Famer, but really? You had no shame in anything. And think about it. This is a guy who mooned Lambeau Field in a playoff game. What is wrong with the name Shaquille? That's what I'm trying to figure out. It's the same guy that mooned Lambeau Field, and we got really Joe Buck just explaining how disgusted he was. Just for Randy Moss's just for entertainment purposes. I'm actually going to play this clip if this actually even loads up. And it's saying right now we're getting it right now. Okay, so we're getting that. To me, it's just I go back and think about this, because there's a guy that told this guy to keep his mouth shut, and not even and just say the hell with the.
There's no way, shouter.
Because if his family called that growing up at this point, I just don't get that logic. That's not going to play, and it's just glitching now at this point. But anyway, I was going to play the clip for you. Fortunately, I can't get it to play. That was playing on random advertising there, so I can't get that to play the audio that I want. But, you get the idea. I mean, Randy Moss at this point telling, I'm not trying to hate on Randy Moss. I'm actually a big-time Randy Moss fan. But for him to go out of his way and to basically just tell this guy that, hey, keep your eyes and ears open and your mouth shut. Keep this deep down in you. Which I don't know if he was trying to amp him up at this point to get him I feel like this is what he would probably do at this point. I feel like Randy Moss would do. Just let me keep my dark secret, and let me just hit somebody hard when they call me Darius. I wonder if he said it on the football field. My name's really Shaq. I don't know. It just seems like I know I'm putting too much into this, but it's it is kind of stupid at this point. It is kind of dumb. I mean, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, this is not really a big story here. It really isn't. But for one of the top linebackers in the league, the most talked about linebacker in the NFL, and now he wants to refer to you as Shaquille Leonard. It just doesn't seem right. The name doesn't seem right. I mean, like when I think of Shaq, I don't think of Darius Leonard. I think of Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, is he the next Shaquille O'Neal right now, except in the NFL? Is he going to grow 7 feet tall? I don't know. But I commend Darius Leonard for doing that. I don't know why Randy Moss was giving that dumb advice, but, whatever. To me, it sounds stupid. His advice was dumb. Darius Leonard should have been Shaquille Leonard a long time ago. Keep your eyes and ears open when it comes to, following the rules. But if you want me to call Shaquille Leonard, should have done the night of the NFL draft. I'm just saying. Danny Amendola retired from the NFL as of yesterday. This was random breaking news right after I got out of the gym. This is also according to Bleacher Report. He's in pursuit for a broadcasting career. You want to know what I think about the broadcasting idea? It doesn't surprise me. Edelman's trying to go for it right now. In fact, although Edelman's trying to go for an NFL comeback, Amendola, I think, knows that he's played the NFL enough. He's played in the NFL now for about 13 years. And I think Amendola will be a perfect suitor for a broadcasting career. The problem is, where does he go? And honestly, I can see him as a Fox. I can see him as an Amazon sideline reporter. I really do. I mean, I don't know what it is, but with him and Al Michaels and Kurt Herbstreit, it just seems like it makes a lot of sense for him to go there, of all places. Because I just can't see him at CBS. I really can't see him at Fox. I can't really even see him on NBC. And if anything, if he was on NBC, I would say he would probably take Chris Collinsworth's job and partner with Mike Tirico if it was even going to happen. But I just have no faith in NBC, because at this point, especially when they had Drew Brees in there with Mike Tirico the last time, look how that turned out. That was a crapshoot. Mike and Drew Brees was not that good to begin with. That's why he's trying to pursue his career back in the NFL. He's trying to get back to playing in the NFL with Drew Brees. Either that or do some charity work. I don't know what he's going to do. This guy is just regretting retirement because he didn't want Brady to break his record. That's the only reason why he wants to come out of it. But, let's be honest. Brady's going to have that record for a long time. It'll take years for that record to get broken. Matt LaFleur getting his extension with the Green Bay Packers. This was announced as of yesterday. He signed his extension. Not really sure on the details of the deal, per se, but he did get his extension as of yesterday with the Green Bay Packers. It did surprise me that he got his extension with his team. And you know what this just tells me at this point? That not only is he trying to win the relationship at this point with Aaron Rodgers, by the way, he showed up jacked up at training camp with a Nicolas Cage outfit, looked like a mom beater shirt on, or a wife beater shirt, not a mom beater, sorry, a wife beater shirt on. I mean, he looked like he went to the gym. He, pumped some iron, probably worked out for about 5 or 6 hours, for the last 6 months. Looked great. Looked fantastic. But you know what this reminds me of with Matt LaFleur at this point? I feel like what Matt LaFleur is going to do this because I think he wants the power. I think even though the Packers are a publicly owned team, so it's not like they have a real owner. Brian Gutekunst at this point is still hated by Aaron Rodgers. Matt LaFleur might want to take his job and be head coach and GM at the same time. I think he could do it. And honestly, if the Green Bay Packers this year somehow get the number 1 seed this year and, have the best record in football in regards to this, and he somehow ends up being the GM and head coach because of it, I think Matt LaFleur should get head coach and GM of the year, in my opinion. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that he would get it. As far as who's a runaway for it for this year, it would have to be Sean McDermott so far with Buffalo. Other than that, I can't really think of anyone else. Either that or McVay. Or either that or Zach Taylor for the Bengals. And the Bengals now become really great the next year and actually get to number 2 and number 3 seed. Who knows? That could be a real thing. That could be realistic at this point. But Matt LaFleur to me would be a perfect addition in a GM seat at this point. It makes a lot of sense. There's a love-hate relationship with Brian Gutekunst at this point. It's not like that, this was Gunkest's choice right now to sign Aaron Rodgers that $50 million deal. He didn't really want to do that. He didn't. That was all Matt LaFleur's doing. Matt LaFleur at this point was a GM for 5 minutes in that conversation that involved Rodgers, that involved Gutekunst. We all know it. We all know it was in the works for months at this point. The fact that Rodgers wasn't traded to the Tennessee Titans at this point during the offseason, I knew then he was going to stay as a Green Bay Packer. And sure enough, he is. Sure enough, he's guaranteed money. He's going to get guaranteed money for the next 3 years at this point. People are going to say he's going to be miserable. I look at it like this. It's more of a cash-in for LaFleur. They're going to be in the NFC playoffs every year, be in the same conference, and either be one and done in the playoffs or losing the NFC title game. It won't make a difference. It just won't make a difference. As crazy as it sounds, it just won't make a difference. But Matt LaFleur at this point wants that GM job. And you can argue right now there was a little, distension there with all the relationship, all the rumors last year saying, LaFleur might force Aaron Rodgers out of Green Bay because he wants Jordan Love to be in there. That's why he drafted him. I mean, that was all Brian Gunkus. I think he knew deep down that Matt LaFleur, that Jordan Love sucked. This guy was no good. I mean, he was blatantly out at this point. I've heard he's been pretty crappy this offseason during training camp. Pretty crappy. Third year in the NFL. And he's not working out great right now with the Packers. Not surprising. I don't think Love's going to take anybody's job anytime soon. Brett Hundley couldn't do it. Jordan Love's the next Brett Hundley. That's it. Nice knowing you, kid. Go be a bench warmer somewhere else. Or if you want to be a bench warmer, be it for Aaron Rodgers. Otherwise, it's just, the whole thing to me is just reads Matt LaFleur GM, next GM of the Packers. That's what it reads. It reads Matt LaFleur is the next GM of the Packers. I can see it now. Justyn Ross, done for the year with the Kansas City Chiefs, the rookie out of Clemson, undrafted rookie, I may add. All I got to say about this is, wow, that didn't take long. It was season ending IR. I'm not sure what the story had led up to that point. There was no injury report to speak of at that point, but he is done for the year. It's the next story I wanted to get into. Bears Soldier Field dome proposal revealed by the mayor could cost over $2.2 billion. This is what Lori Lightfoot has said. If Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot has her way, the Bears will continue to play at a renovated Soldier Field inside the Windy City for years to come. The team agreed to purchase the now shuttered Arlington International Racecourse in the northwest suburb of Arlington Heights. But Lightfoot introduced proposals to potentially keep the NFL team where it is and perhaps even add a dome to Soldier Field. So according to Dana Ribbick on her Twitter, Murrary Lightfoot introduced 3 concepts for future Soldier Field: building a dome, keeping open air but dome ready, or multi-purpose concept. First 2 would increase capacity from 61,500 to 70,000 fans. Here's where Holly Sports has said, Larry Holly himself. Here are the release renderings of proposed dome renovation of Soldier Field released by the mayor's office today. There are 3. They basically come up with the exact same thing here. However, a third option means the stadium could be renovated to continue hosting the MLS Chicago Fire and other events such as college football games and concerts, even if the Bears move to Arlington Heights. Franz Spielman and David Rodner of the Chicago Sun-Times reported adding a dome to Soldier Field could cost up to $2.2 billion, while Ribbick noted developer Bob Dunn, who has helped in the stadium's development projects for other NFL teams, said the dome would save $1 to $1.5 billion compared to building an entirely new stadium in Arlington Heights. Here's my opinion at this point. I heard about it today on Black and White Sports, the podcast. And right now, the reason this dome at this point needs to be in fruition for her in her campaign. This is all about her campaign. I don't think she really gives a damn about the team sport at all. And that's the fact. She's worse than the Ford family in Detroit. Okay? That's the reality. That's my take. Because this may help lower the crime rate in Chicago if they build a dome. So what are they going to do if they have like a random purge night or like a random shooting or random stabbing? Well, they got like a shelter in the freaking dome of Soldier Field until until the crime spree comes to an end. That's going to be the new thing now at this point. That's what I think of why this is a possibility for the stadium to be a possibility, because it all makes sense for her campaign. I'm not trying to be political on my show. I think adding a dome to the team is not going to make this team any better. It's not going to make the team. It's not going to be making Chicago the loudest stadium ever. They're not going to break records of GEHA or in Arrowhead Stadium, which is a stupid freaking name for a football field. I'm just sorry. You kept it at Arrowhead, and you would else that. But it's not going to break that capacity. It's not going to be the next Superdome. It's just going to be another stadium at this point that's used for the Chicago Bears. That's not going to make the team any better and solve their problems. And it's not going to help Lightfoot's campaign at this point. And really, let's be honest at this point, this is basically chasing the Bears away from this whole thing. I think they want a dome. I think they just want out of Soldier Field. I understand it. It's an old stadium. It's falling apart. I mean, yeah, it's going to save the city $1.5 billion from them renting a new stadium. But to try to force the issue at this point of like helping your campaign, listen, I know Chicago's a bad state. Crime rates are extremely high. I understand that whole thing. But wasting taxpayers' money on a new stadium to really, and in my honest opinion, yeah, you're saving $1.5 billion in a stadium, but let's be honest here for a minute. You're adding 70,000. You're adding 9,000 more seats into that stands. Are you going to get new seats? Are you going to get more heated seats? Are you going to get better seats? Or are you just going to keep the same exact seats for the other 60,000 and add 10,000 more seats in that stadium that are just brand new? You can't have it both ways. I'd say do the dome just for the hell of it, but don't try to use it as your campaign mentality to lower crime rate. It's not going to lower crime rate if you have a dome in Soldier Field. At this point, you're just chasing them out of the football field. You're just adding more crisis. You're just adding more. I mean, you're adding more drama and you're adding more crime sprees where it gives these kids ideas to create mischief and trouble as they try to break into the stadium to hurt somebody, to harm somebody. I understand using it as a shelter for people who are homeless maybe, but to lower crime rate though, it's like, here's an idea. Here's how you lower your crime rate. If you're the government, get rid of your AR-15s. Don't sell to a bunch of freaking 15-year-old, 16-year-old kids. Don't sell it to anybody unless they have a right hand in mind and they're going to use it for hunting animals or use it for anything else. Not for murdering people. In fact, if you take a CTE test or a clinically insane test right now and go through multiple tests at this point and you have one fuck up with one test, you don't get the gun. It's that simple. But the government needs to make, and here's another way of looking at it. I think the government would be making more money at this point if more people were buying AR-15s. Because think about it at this point. People need to defend themselves anyway. How is getting an AR-15 only to the criminals at this point making them more money? I just don't get that logic. Then again, no one's going to ever understand this government system anyway. So that's just how I feel. But to try to make it about lowering crime rate, though, to me, just seems kind of like fishy to me. It just seems weak. That's all I got to say. It just seems weak to me. Kyler Murray got a new request in his requirement. It requires independent study hours. So it's basically like, study hall 101 in the NFL for Kyler Murray at this point. And includes the incentives includes an actual study hall to actually by himself to actually watch them play a game here. This is according to Doric Sanders, came out as of yesterday. As part of Kyler Murray's $230.5 million contract extension with the Arizona Cardinals, I still say it's a mistake. The star quarterback will have to keep up his study habits. According to NFL's Ian Rappaport, Murray's extension includes an Adams require 4 hours of independent study for a film each game week. And he says Kyler Murray does 4 hours of game studying on his own anyway. And similar to the team wanting him around for the offseason as the face of the franchise, Arizona wanted a commitment in writing while going to a certain place money-wise, thus the clause. And does say an independent study. I love how they put this in here from 2022 to 2027. I got to be honest with you, he'll be asking for an extension every year, and they'll just keep giving it right to him anyway. Probably the dumbest contract to give somebody in the NFL, I think, in my opinion. They do lots of studying for film. I can't imagine NFL teams today only doing 4 hours of study in film. Tom Brady's the kind of guy that would probably go in there for over 72 hours in film if he really wanted to. He probably already did. He probably faked his retirement to just psych people out, but, it didn't really work. We weren't all convinced. This to me is just, I mean, you might as well just put that down every contract out for every NFL player now at this point, including the stoner teams, including the drunks, including the druggies. Give that in their contract. Say, if you want to stay in this team, you got to do 2 things: independent study and don't do drugs and don't drink. But this to me just seems kind of insulting, though. You know what I mean? Like, I know we're giving you $230.5 million, but can you actually try to watch the film? Like, what are they saying here? Does Kyler Murray not give a damn about the NFL? Did he not give a damn for the first 4 or 5 years of his career? Did he waste all their time at this point? And granted, I mean, this would have been the end of his. I think this would have been the end of his rookie deal. I believe. I think last year kind of was, right? I mean, let's be honest, it kind of was. He got drafted. I think he got drafted what? Or no, I think this year would have been the end of it, right? This year would have been the end of it. Okay, because he got drafted in 19. I keep thinking he got drafted in 18. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous at this point they had to put that in his contract. But you know, that's just me. I think that was a kind of dumb move on their part, especially at this point where it's like it's kind of insulting the guy. But you know what? He don't care. It's just like Roger Goodell when they insult him every time. Oh, he's a commissioner. He'll fix our problems. He'll be the stupid idiot that goes on the camera. And sure enough, he does, and he gets that $500 million because of it. This here, it's just another Roger Goodell contract. The only difference is they're just making it obvious of how dumb Kyler Murray really is. It's like dealing with a dumb college jock who's got a low GPA and can't understand like common sense of the English language. That's basically what they're treating this like this. But for Kyler Murray, he's a professional NFL player. Maybe this will motivate him. Maybe he'll win a Super Bowl title this year. Who knows? I just can't see how this changes in any way, shape, or form. I feel like Kyler Murray is just going to take the money and run. He knows this franchise ain't going to go anywhere. Let me look at even do anything for the next few years. Jaylen Brown seems forced out of Boston. There was a rumor going on the other day via ESPN, according to Wojciechowski, who mentioned the possibility of Kevin Durant being traded for Jaylen Brown at this point. Brown for Kevin Durant at this point. It's being forced by Sean Marks, the GM at this point, for the Brooklyn Nets at this point. Brad seems not willing to budge at this point. They're asking for Marcus Smart and they're asking for Derek White and 3 or 4 first-round draft picks. I believe that's what the cost of it was now. I look at it like this. If you want my honest opinion about this whole thing, I said this from the get-go. There's a lot of trade packages in there, and there's a lot of draft picks that are being moved around in this whole ordeal. I mentioned it to Mike. He didn't really agree with it. I mean, I'm going to put this out there on a limb here. The idea now at this point of Jaylen Brown leaving Boston, I think still happens. I think you win a championship if you get Kevin Durant on your team in your first year. I'm sorry you do. I think he's capable of winning it for himself. I think he's willing to hog the spotlight. I think in reality right now, the narrative was sticking to the NBA. And the Golden State Warriors didn't like that because they didn't want the dynasty to be about Kevin Durant sticking to the NBA. They wanted it for it to be about themselves. I get that logic of why there was a lot of hatred between Kevin Durant and the Warriors in the end there. I kind of understand that. At the same time, though, they kind of forced him out. I mean, it was not like Durant wanted to leave Golden State. I don't think Durant wanted to leave there. I think Golden State wanted him to leave. I think that was basically him being forced out. I think I just said that backwards there. But anyway, but here's the thing. Durant wanted to leave OKC. Durant wants to leave Brooklyn. It makes sense right now. He's got 4 years left of his contract, though. That's the only problem. I don't know if that's just what the issue is, money-wise. Is money really an issue for the Boston Celtics right now at this point? I don't think it is. I don't think it makes much of a difference. Quite honestly, I think it's kind of ridiculous at this point that they just don't pull the trigger here. If you're the Celtics at this point, Marcus Smart, as great as a player he is, as great as a defender he is, and, the heart and soul really for this Boston Celtics team, it seems like, according to a lot of green teamers out there, I don't believe that's the case. I think it's mostly just Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is just another name. That's all he is. He's not that special. He's not a 5-time NBA All-Star. He's not a 5 NBA Finals champion. He's not an NBA Finals MVP. The guy's made a couple of All-Stars. I think maybe just one, maybe. I don't know. Maybe with a reserve. I can't remember. But you kind of get my point. Like the whole idea of at this point right now, the Celtics not to pull the trigger at this point, what are they waiting for? They don't really believe in Brown, is what it seems like to me. So the thing of it is, here's my question right now, out of curiosity this way. Let's just say they don't trade away Jaylen Brown, but Brown wants to prove himself, so he stays on the team. What are you giving up then if you're Boston to still get Kevin Durant? If Jaylen Brown's off the table, what do you give up? Do you give up Marcus Smart, Derek White, and Grant Williams, and 5 first-round draft picks out of it? I think that's a better. I mean, I don't think that's a better package, and I think it's a horrible deal. I think it blows up right in the Celtics' face at this point anyway, because you got Durant's defense, who's not that great. It's not blow away. It's not like anybody there is motivated about that defense, But you still got impactful players on that team. You still got Jaylen Brown and Tatum that plays defense. And that seems to be been the common theme right now. I look at LeBron James's career with a big 3. The only players I remember that played defense, realistically, that played defense on that team, were the likes of, and I'll give you the following. I'll give you the following right now. It was Mario Chalmers, if I'm going to say the name right. I think I just botched the name. Chris Bosh, who I think was more of an enforcer. And maybe Shane Battier. I mean, you talk about, and these are just reserve players. Brown is just, he's a starter. He's a one-time NBA All-Star, somehow, maybe 2. But don't get it twisted. The idea that Jaylen Brown, at this point, is not worth the investment, that would pay off for Boston if he does get traded, let's just say hypothetically, to Brooklyn. It's a really good investment for Brooklyn because you're giving up a lot in Kevin Durant at this point. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving is your super team package. That's all there is to it, right? And you got Ben Simmons right there. Durant don't want to stay there now because of 2 reasons. Kyrie Irving's number 1, and I think Ben Simmons is number 2. I don't think he likes playing with Ben Simmons or Irving, if you want my honest opinion. I think Simmons just showed of how much he doesn't care about basketball. He doesn't want to be playing basketball. He just wants the money. That's all there is to it. It's like Dwight Howard when he didn't want to win an NBA Finals championship. He was only trying to, do a sneaker investment in Orlando, Florida, which for his own sneaker brand, which by the way failed. I mean, I don't think he even got a sneaker store anywhere. And look, in reality, he went to Los Angeles to try to invest in his market there. Kobe Bryant didn't like the fact that he wasn't motivated to be a Laker in the first place. And the Magic never liked the fact he didn't want to be an Orlando Magic player in the first place. It rubbed Stan Van Gundy the wrong way. This right here, what Kevin Durant is doing is rubbing people the wrong way of him wanting out of Brooklyn. And I think Sean Marks wants to pay off in this whole thing. And you want my honest opinion? If Brown's not the guy that they're willing to give up his spot, here's my opinion. Here's why they will take his spot in this trade. It will be Marcus Smart. It will be Derek White. White will probably end up going. And you got Grant Williams. Tatum is not going to be the one that ends up going because he's the face of the franchise now. That's been well established at this point. Jaylen Brown is the number 2 guy. Jaylen Brown needs to accept it. If you don't want to accept it, and look, you weren't even – yes, you were drafted in the first round of the NBA draft. But let's be real about this NBA draft for a minute. It's lottery picks. You were a lottery pick in the first round. It's not like it was a real draft. It's not like you were on a top-rated school winning a championship. You were a lottery pick, and you landed on a team, and you made it your home. And reality is there are a lot of Boston fans out there right now who are drawn and invested in Jason Tatum because he came from a big school, and he has that win mentality. It makes it all about him, and they can respect that. What mentality do you really have besides being an afterthought? You were really an afterthought out in Cal. You were an afterthought here in Boston. I'm sorry, but you were. You were an afterthought after the NBA Finals. Think about it. Your team lost the series in 6 games. Were you much of a thought after that whole thing? Heck, people are giving up on you right now. If I'm Jaylen Brown, I would want out of there and say, yeah, I'll go to Brooklyn. Bring in Kevin Durant. Go right ahead. Trade me. Like, at this point, like, if you've been trying out for 6 years and you don't think it's going to go anywhere, you just wrap your hat and just say, all right, screw it, I'm out of here, and just end it. That's it. I mean, I don't get the logic behind this whole thing of why the Suns aren't willing to pull a trade off here. And here's my opinion. Rick Grosbach actually been wanting to come down on a limb here and quiets all this down. all this trade nonsense. You notice he hasn't really done that. And this is a guy who he bowed up and down to on Felger and Mass every time he's been on that thing, or whether or not he's been on Touch or Ridge or Zolak and Bertrand, whatever sports thing he's been on for Boston sports. If he's been on TV for, I mean, this guy has gone out of his way to bow his head up and down for it. Like, that's it. That's all there is to it. Like, there's nothing about this right now that screams out right now that, you know, that Jaylen Brown is really wanted here in Boston, and he's being forced out. I think he is being forced out. And honestly, at this point, this is not going to hurt the Celtics in any way, shape, or form. I mean, think about it. Everyone wants to go back to the guy who was down 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals against the Golden State Warriors, and the next year he went to the Warriors. Here's the thing. He won Finals MVP because he was a better player on the floor, and he owned the court with that team. That team was 73 wins away from winning the NBA Finals. You want to know what they were missing? They were missing Kevin Durant. They didn't want to admit it to themselves, but they were missing Kevin Durant, and they've got a lot to thank. Steph Curry has got 4 NBA Finals rings. 2 of them was because of Kevin Durant. So he should be kissing the guy's ass. And by the way, he played a game with a partially repaired torn Achilles that he ripped off again. So I don't see why there's a lot of hatred at this point for Kevin Durant at this point. And the fact that they don't want him back in Golden State, if I was the Warriors, I would take that chance. You could have actually won more championships. And I think, honestly, and here's my opinion. It's always going to be about Curry and Klay Thompson no matter what anyway if Durant's not on this team. Like, let's be honest for a minute. There's not going to be a Jordan Poole montage. There's not going to be a Draymond Green montage, although Curry is kissing his ass about his podcast, and he loves his podcast. I think it's actually real. It's not just like for like a fill in this point and not acting like it. Like I think he legit loves his podcast. His podcast actually has a pretty good podcast. If you want to give a listen to it, go on Spotify and listen to it. But here's my opinion on the whole riff thing. It's the S piece. They got to get their moment in there somehow. He was the punchline of the joke. That's all it was. That's it. If Kevin Durant's got to take that personally, that's on him. You know, Durant's got, is a softie at this point. I mean, I can see why he was called a cupcake. Here's the thing that really actually makes me laugh about this whole thing. He was never annoyed by that comment in Oklahoma City. Like, I remember people telling me about how he was annoyed. I remember every time he was playing against the Thunder with Russell Westbrook being there, he just laughed it off, laughed him right at him. He embarrassed them. Every time the Warriors and Thunder played, they embarrassed the shit out of the Thunder. It was funny. Games weren't even close. And to me, this wouldn't surprise me in the slightest right now, but I think Kevin Durant going to the Boston Celtics may have him by the end of this week. You know, people are saying it's not a real report, it's all fake news, but at this point, Jaylen Brown's not happy. He was almost traded out of here for Utah for Donovan Mitchell, which that would have been a mistake. But I think now at this point, what's the real thing here at this point? Do you keep Brown around and put Durant here? And is Durant going to be okay being a number 3 guy? Because I don't think Durant even cares. Because look at it like this. He was a Finals MVP, and he wasn't even the number 1 guy in Golden State at that point. He was never even the face of the franchise. So I think here, if you get Durant here without getting rid of Jaylen Brown here, at this point, it's a no that's ever happened at this point. But you get Marcus Smart, and you get Derek White, and you get Grant Williams. That's half your defense right there. That's half your defense right there. And you already allowed Daniel Tice to go. You already allowed Aaron Nesmith to go. Tice was part of that tough, rambunctious defense half the time. Half the time he blew it. But he was part of that defense. I still think Daniel Tice might come back, though. This is like a reoccurring thing now with Daniel Tice. But he might come back to the Celtics for a 3rd time. Let's be honest. Because his time in Indiana is going to suck. But Jaylen Brown at this point, if I'm the Celtics, I pull off the trade. But if Brown sticks around here with Tatum and Durant is on the same team as well, this team may 3-peat with all 3 of those guys. I don't see how the Celtics would lose any round at this point. And it's more of a reality of, like, I think Kevin Durant and the Celtics could win a 5-game series against the Bucks and eliminate the Heat in 4 games if you had Brown, Tatum around with Durant. So that may happen. That may be a reality. Anyway, that's really about it. Short show. Not much else to say about the show. You can give the show a follow. You can follow us here on social media thing in the description below the video. Mike will probably be here on Saturday. If not, it's just me again. Honestly, I will be at Patriots training camp. I'm not even sure I'm even doing this podcast on Saturday, to be honest. I'll keep you all informed about the show for anybody there who actually still watches this show. But anyway, I will keep you informed. I'll let you know what goes on. And yeah, I'm going to wrap it up. Enjoy the rest of your week, guys. I'll see you either Friday or Saturday. I'll keep you informed. I'm out.